Bingham. Erik, Melvin, Butler. Kynard. And Mark Winston.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kansas Sports Hall of Fame Executive Director Richard Conzum.
Thank you for being here tonight. We want to welcome you to this year's 2024 Induction Ceremony. You know, our logo up here that you see on the screen has 3 words. And those 3 words on the ribbon are honor, educate, and inspire. And this evening we're gathered here to honor our 2024 class of inductees and to also recognize our previous inductees who are waiting in the wings over here. We're waiting here to listen to their stories, learn about their journeys that brought them here tonight, the education piece of it. It wouldn't be possible to be here tonight without your support, and what an outstanding crowd. This well exceeded our expectations, and obviously over the last week, the ticket flow really hit. So thank you for being here in a crowded ballroom. And finally, tomorrow will be the 60th anniversary of the men's 10,000 meters run at the 1964 Olympics in Tokyo. And the gold medal was won by an American, and he's the only one to have ever won a gold medal in the 10,000 meters. The race and victory continues to inspire generations of athletes and the people around the world. The last word in our ribbon, inspire. Please welcome the 1964 10,000 meter Olympic gold medalist and a member of the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame, Mr. Billy Mills.
I just returned a few weeks ago from the Paralympic Games, and I just want to briefly acknowledge the coach that has coached the greatest United States Olympic team, Stanley Redwine. Stanley's out here somewhere. And every night at the Olympic Games was a track and field final, and every night that one or more final, if that was the final of the Olympic Games, the best, it would have made it still an incredible Olympic Games. So I'm humbled to be here, and it's my honor to welcome to the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony to welcome the 2024 class. The Hall of Fame inductees include to represent, they continually, year after year, a very unique selection of high achievers. And I look upon them as I meet them. A recent pole vaulter, one of my heroes, we just shook hands again. You're the best of the best. And I've been inspired by your magnificent performances. Everybody here has a story of inspiration, of magnificent achievements. But I'm going to take a little detour and give you just one example. And Kelly Rankin. Who would have thought Kelly, aspiring baseball player, track and field athlete, and me, an aspiring miler, who would have thought we would end up on the greatest playing field of sport, the Olympic Games? Kelly, sprinter, baseball player. I wanted to be a great miler until Hall of Famer Bill Dotson showed up. And Bill caused me to take a major event check. So I became a 10,000 meter runner. Kelly became an official, starting some of the greatest races in the sport of track and field. Who would have thought we would end up at the greatest sports venue on planet Earth, the Olympic Games, which this year celebrates its 2,800th birthday. And who would have thought Studley Renway would be the coach of the greatest Olympic team ever? This year celebrating their 2,800th birthday. So we need to go beyond the magnificent achievements that we officials, athletes, coaches have achieved. And we need to take a moment and thank our mentors, our families, our loved ones who've been there day after day after day, late into the evening, waiting while we did our practice, or we helped somebody else achieve his or her dream. Our coaches and the mentors all need to be thanked and deeply appreciated. So as the class of 2024 goes forward, your stories, your passion, and your dedication to be the best of the best will inspire generation after generation after generation of youth from the Sunflower State and beyond. So I say congratulations to our class of 2024. Let's give them a hand. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you.
And now our Master of Ceremonies tonight and a board member for the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame and the person who has put this entire production and program, our director, together, Mr. Jeff Bolig.
Thank you, Richard. Good evening, and thank you to all the families and friends who are here tonight supporting the inductees and the past inductees as well. And I could actually watch the whole 10,000 meters if we could get the, that'd be awesome. Billy, thank you for coming. It's my privilege to introduce two individuals who will help us tonight. A board member, Gerard Welbrock. Gerard will be the interviewer tonight. He is also the voice of the Fort Hays State Tigers. Gerard Welbrock. And our board chairman, Jim Dunning, he'll help in the presentation of the awards. Jim? Our first inductee is Annette Wiles. Annette is from Hunter, Kansas, actually smaller than Kynard, Kansas. Played at Sylvan Grove High School, where she led the state in scoring all classes as a senior. Went on to Fort Hays State University, two-time All-American NAIA MVP of the 1991 tournament, which the Tigers won with a 34-2 record, holds virtually every scoring and rebounding record. From there, she went on to coach at Bethany at the ripe old age of 23, then to Fort Hays, and then to Minnesota Duluth, where she led every team to the national tournament. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Hall of Famer Annette Wiles.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Gerard.
Special for me because I got to call her games when she was coach of the Tigers. They won the championship the year after I graduated, so thank you for that as well. I missed that. I want to start, and I'm going to ask all of the inductees kind of the same questions to start it off, but maybe an update for everyone, where you live now and what you're doing.
Well, I live in Lawrence, Kansas. I work for Topeka Public Schools. I'd like to give a shout out to Dr. Anderson and TPS 501. Very, very proud to be the director of Hummer Sports Park and also oversee athletics throughout the district. But more than anything, life happens. Our daughter is 13 and life begins to blossom when you have a teenage girl. So that's a full-time job in itself. But we're very proud to live in Lawrence, and shout out to Shelley and my parents. And I love being able to get back home and see my parents. I love to see my sister and my brother wherever they are. They live nearby as well. So just glad to be here, glad to be in Kansas. I survived 7 winters in the Northland, and I couldn't wait to get back to the land of Oz.
Obviously, one common theme among all of you inductees is success. What do you attribute your success as a player and then as a coach?
I think just grit. My parents are some of the most hardworking people in the state of Kansas, and I know there's many of you that can say that of your own parents. But I grew up in a very small town up in north central Kansas, and you know, it's a situation where you don't realize what your parents are giving you as you're experiencing their life struggles of raising 3 kids in a small community. They were small business owners, and due to the fact that my dad loved digging holes with a backhoe, he decided to start a second small business, which I think was his way of getting away from mom at the locker. But at the end of the day, my parents were just extremely hardworking. I also was blessed to have both sets of my grandparents. One set of grandparents was 4 miles north of town, one was 3 miles south of town. And I also had those models and those role models. So my parents, my grandparents, my siblings, and then ultimately Coach Weatherman. He's in these stands, and I give a huge shout out to Coach Mike Weatherman. He was a game changer for me when he took over as the girls basketball coach at Sylvan Grove.
You kind of touched on it. Life in Hunter, Kansas. Tell us about that.
Well, you know, if anybody knows where Hunter is, it's probably because they used to go to Vera's when they were in college. So any of you from anywhere is a part of the community, but we still have a cafe in Hunter. The Hunter Cafe still makes the best cheeseburgers in Kansas. I said that officially on a news radio program show, and so people have started coming to get Kay's cheeseburgers. But Hunter is a small town. It's a town of about 50 people. Our dad was a servant's heart and was the mayor of our town for over 30 years. So we were that family that was first to everything to set up tables and chairs, and we were also the family picking up the trash, which is ironic, exactly what I'm doing at Hummer. So no wonder I'm so good at it. But anyhow, my mom and dad, they still reside there in Hunter, and again, I have a lot of family here tonight, and life in Hunter is as simple and plain as anywhere out in the northwestern part of Kansas. We need more rain, and I love to go back and fish, and a shout out to Pam and Steve to make that happen for me.
Obviously, you have a great career at Fort Hays State. How did that all go down and you became a Tiger?
Well, there's a man in this stand that would say that it's all him, and that's Dr. Hammond, but we also know that it's actually John Klein. So shout out to John Klein for recruiting all of us as student athletes to Fort Hays, and Tom Burkhart became the mastermind for me, because when Coach would say, hey, take the post players and go to the far end of the court, and Coach would stand there and watch the guards shoot the ball all the time, Coach Burkhart was actually doing the work. So as a teammate, when I look at my time, I was a difficult teammate because I was not a practice player. I was a gamer, and Coach always prided me on being a gamer, which made it difficult to love going to practice some days. But at the same rate, I have a lot of teammates here. I have the ladies of the 80s. My high school teammates are in the stands. And I tell you, for me, it's just great pride that I've had very blessed coaches, but more importantly, I had teammates that wanted me to be successful. Women wanting women to be successful. And that's what really was a game changer. When I got to Fort Hays, Julie Kazar was a defensive-minded player. I was an offensive-minded player, and we happened to live together. Weirdly enough, 4 years later, we had a trophy on the TV. One was for the Defensive Player of the Year, which was for her, and one was for the Offensive Player, which was for me. We always said one was better than the other, but life would have never happened for us winning a national championship without both. So it's a huge shout out to my teammates, to the people around me, and more importantly, to the communities of which I grew up in. You know, you live in Hays. Hays is a sports town. There's not a lot going on, and people love Fort Hays. And that's what being a proud fighting Fort Hays Tiger is.
And I know we talked before, you were two-time All-American, you led high school scoring your senior year, but being a national champion means a lot to you.
Being a national champion is without question my greatest badge of honor that I carry, because I know I carry it for the shoulders of many. And I also know that as a national champion, it was truly a team. From our team manager that is actually in these stands today, Sandy Norman, she wears her national championship ring just as proudly as I wear mine. We were truly a team from top to bottom, from coaches, from parents, from our fans, and even, you know, from the announcers in the broadcast booth. We all were pulling to win that national championship, and when that eventually happened, it was without question one of the biggest highlights. And to know that that game came down to only a few seconds with a point guard standing on a line, shooting her only 2 free throws of the game to win the national title for us, we all cheered for each other because we all know we made a difference.
You got to play your high school ball with your sister. You won a national championship with your sister. I know she's here today. That had to be extra special.
Absolutely. Without question, Deanne is she's a partner in crime. And sometimes when people were saying things or trying to get me off my mental game, fans and people in the stands or players on the court, they would try to make efforts to throw an extra elbow or maybe put an additional foul in beyond the foul. And my sister was always the person that was going to go over and confront him and clean it up, and I always loved that she had my back. So thank you for that, Deanne. But we always sit in this space as sisters. We carry the pride that we both wear national championship rings as sisters, and we're still the only 2 sisters in the state of Kansas with national championship rings for women's basketball. Our parents made that trip to Jackson, Tennessee. My Grandma Cheney and Grandpa Cheney made that trip, and God rest my grandma's soul, she is shining down right now, just beaming on the high heavens, because she is saying, this is all of the results of your hard work. And she was that farm grandma that made us work hard when we went to stay at grandma's, but she was always there cheering us on when it came to our basketball. So my sister shares that love. We also have a brother that equally shares the world of sports. And again, we're a family with 2 parents that weren't sports-oriented people, weren't college-oriented people, and sports lifted us up out of our small town to the lives that we all have now. Myself working in Topeka Public Schools, my sister a 30-year veteran in the classroom in DeSoto, and my brother a doctor at Midland Health. We're all successful people built around the world of sports, but more importantly because of the parents and the hard work that we gained in the community we grew up in.
You mentioned a lot of people before we let you go here. Any stories that we haven't touched on you'd like everybody to know? Any particular person that's been an inspiration that you want to share with before we let you go here tonight?
Well, seeing Coach Hardgrove and seeing Coach Washington today, it just took me back. I was a 17-year-old kid being recruited in the Big 8, and I happened to be leading scoring. I was averaging over 28 points a game in high school. And this small town kid, and Coach Washington was like, just come and visit, just come see KU. And I wanted to so bad, but I was like, I just don't know if it's for me. So seeing all of these women and seeing these coaches sitting in this space with me and knowing that I'm going to walk into the Hall of Fame with them is such an honor and a privilege. Because when my mom pulled up to that residential hall at the University of Kansas and said, this is the admissions office, and I got out and I said, Mom, there's more toilets in that residential hall than there is in our whole town. I don't think this is for me. And my mom said, you're going to be respectful, you're going to be polite, we're going to eat our free lunch, and we're going to roll back home. The next thing that happened is John Klein and Tom Burkhart showed up at my house. I didn't have to travel anywhere. They just came, and my mom made some chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes. Coach Burkhart and Coach Klein still talk to this day about it. And they come, and they were sitting there, and they're like, we know you've got a lot of schools recruiting you, but we really want you, and we really love your mom's fried chicken, or your mom's chicken fried steak. And I said, well, I'm coming to Fort Hays. And they both choked on the chicken. And they were like, you're what? And I said, I'm not going to go visit anywhere else. I want to come to Fort Hays. And it was a decision that I worked through with great diligence, but it was not without the efforts of these women recruiting me and making me believe I could have been something more than I actually thought in my own heart I could be. And I'm thankful to my coaches. I'm thankful to my teammates. I'm certainly thankful to my family, and I'm thankful to my community. And I also just personally want to say thank you to the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. Thank you for giving me a dream that I didn't know was possible. So thank you.
Annette Wiles, congratulations and welcome to the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame.
The 2024 Kansas Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Smoky Hills PBS is made possible in part by
Congratulations to Annette Wiles on your successful career and induction into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame from the staff and customers of the Golden Q, downtown Hays. Golden Q, if the game's on, we're open.
At NextTech, we're about connecting and providing the best solutions to help the communities that we serve thrive. Now, after more than 70 years, we continue growing to serve you. We are community, we are connectivity, we are NextTech.
Fort Hays State University Athletics, State Bank of Downs, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Dave Bingham. Dave is from Tucson, Arizona, and like Dorothy and Toto, he made his mark in Kansas. Played 2 seasons at Emporia State for the legendary Larry Koshel, and then left, tried at minor league baseball, came back, and served as the coach from 73 to 87, winning the 1978 NAIA title, NAIA Coach of the Year 3 times. Went on to KU, where he coached from 88 to 95, including 2 NCAA tournament berths, a berth in the College World Series in 93, and he has experience coaching the U.S. national team and as assistant coach for the Olympics in 84 and 88. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Hall of Famer Dave Bingham.
Dave, congratulations. I'm a Tiger. You're a Hornet. We can be friends. It's all okay. It's all you bet. Again, kind of like I started with Annette, maybe just talk about your career a little bit and your journey to get to Kansas, and anybody here in particular you want to acknowledge and thank before we get started.
For sure. You know, I to start off, I got to say that I'm very fortunate in all this. You know, it's not anything of my doing by any means. It's I've always felt like it was at the right place at the right time and associated with the right people. And you know, there's a number of them here who've had such an effect on my career. And you know, it all started out, you know, back in the 60s, parents didn't really look for you know, the right school with the right place and all that. We did what we did for our family to try to, you know, get them in the right spot. So in Tucson, I lived in the Catalina High School district and played baseball at Catalina High School. And my youngest sister was born when I was a freshman. And my family decided that they needed to have a larger house, so we moved into the Palo Verde High School district. And just because we needed a house, not necessarily the school or anything else. And at Palo Verde High School in January of my junior year, they hired a guy by the name of Jim Wing, who went on to be assistant at Arizona, pitching coach, 3 national championships. He was an incredible technician of the game. We at Palo Verde at that time were on double sessions, so practice started at 1 o'clock and went till dark. In the 60s, you could do that. And so from Jim Wing, I learned how to practice. I learned the game, and it, you know, obviously held me well through the years. You know, the next opportunity was I went to the University of Arizona, walked on there, and the freshman coach was Mike Paul. There's only one guy in this room who knows who Mike Paul is, and he came from Cerritos Junior College and pitched at Arizona, Cerritos College was coached by Wally Kincaid, one of the most legendary coaches in California junior college history. Jack Smithern probably is the only one who knows who Wally Kincaid is. He was a phenomenal coach, and Mike Paul played for him and understood. And very fortunate to have Mike Paul. And the first day of practice at Arizona, when it was 105 degrees, and there were 80 guys trying out for baseball at Arizona, we ran till about 40 guys quit. You can do that in the 60s. And somehow, some way, I didn't quit, and ended up making the freshman team, going on and leading the freshman team in hitting. And Mike was incredible in influence in his understanding of the game. From there, went to Arizona and made the varsity team, and that was the first year freshmen were eligible, and there was a quarterback on the football team that was a second baseman as well, and the coach decided it might be better off to have the football player on the baseball team, so I ended up playing 5 games there, and then Larry Koshel had a phenomenal career in coaching from Arizona State, recruited me to go to Emporia State. And it was the greatest thing that ever happened. Leaving Tucson with the mountains and all of that, and then going to Kansas in the flatland. But Larry Koshel played for the legendary Bobby Winkles, obviously maybe the finest college baseball coach ever. But from those guys I learned, to work and how to play and compete. My senior year, a guy by the name of Jack Smithern came to be our coach, also a graduate. Let me get a little choked over this. Also a graduate of Arizona State. And I thought I was the hardest working guy, and I didn't think there was anybody else who could outwork me until I met Jack Smithern. And Jack Smithern taught me there was way more inside of me than I ever thought there was. And I'll be deeply indebted to him forever. And he's here, and I wish Jack would stand up. Not going to stand up? There he is, back there. Thank you, Jack. And I think that's what you talk about, the inspire. This guy took it totally to a different level. So my deal has been about work ethic completely, and that then promoted it on immediately. I ended up getting the head job at Emporia State when I was 24 years old, and kind of took that learning that I had from all those guys and then pushed it forward. And thank goodness for some amazing athletes who, were able to take what I gave to them. And I guess I learned that one of my coaching philosophies, I never wanted a kid to walk out of our program and say, I was never asked or provided the opportunity to be the best I could be. And for some guys were there, they didn't necessarily want to be the best they could be. And so you get, some that like you, some don't necessarily aren't big fans of you. But so anyway, there's kind of a dichotomy of that. But there's some fabulous people who took the challenge, and it was amazing at Emporia State, the success we had.
I think your worst team was your first year, and then obviously took them to new heights. That had to be, having been there, just so gratified.
We had an incredible run there, and the culture was started by Larry Koshel and Jack Smithern, and I was able to follow it. And people there knew how to win, and I was able to pull it out of them.
And then you go to KU, you lead them to 2 NCAAs and a College World Series in '93. Just talk about that experience and getting them going, and then obviously the great success and making it to Omaha.
It's a totally different culture going from a place that won all the time to an institution that played on basically one scholarship for many, many years at the best. And, it was way more about, not making any waves and don't upset anything. And that really didn't resonate too much with me. And so I, was given kind of an ultimate, I was given the opportunity, like a guy came in and said, hey, if you don't make any waves and, you do a good job, it's a great place to live, great place to work. And I said, I didn't come here to do that. So we made some waves and got some great kids, and they really responded. And, it wouldn't have happened. I mean, the whole World Series thing wouldn't have taken place you know, when I came in there, the team that was there was 15-39 for the year and 3-21 in the Big 8 conference. And obviously, there was a reason that, you know, things had to change. So it was a long way from there to Omaha. And not many people could even think that that would ever be except for one guy, and that was me. And so we brought a lot of junior college kids in to start, and they recruited a class of 6 kids who were, you know, 6 freshmen who came in, and I was being me and pushing and challenging, and these 6 guys, a fellow by the name of Jeff Niemeyer, who was our All-American catcher, he brought the other 5 guys into his room in Oliver Hall in their freshman year when it was hard. You know, I'd been pushing hard. And Jeff sat them down and he said, you know, guys, this is really hard, but I trusted this guy when he recruited me. And I'm all in with what he asked me to do. And I think you should be, and you should be, and you should be, and you should be, and you should be. And 4 years later, those guys played in the College World Series. And so Jeff Niemeyer sitting out here is probably the greatest leader of any team that I ever coached. Jeff, would you? Right back there. He won't stand up.
And then maybe share a little bit about your USA baseball and Olympic experience.
Again, what an amazing deal. I remember Bill Tidwell. So at Emporia State, actually my contract at Emporia State was, I was a special assistant to the president. Today they would call that a coaching contract, and I was maybe one of the first guys who was on such a thing. 3 years after I was there, Bill Tidwell said, hey, we're going to keep the program. You've done well. We want you to go on the tenure track and, you know, be a tenured professor and all that kind of stuff. And I looked at him and said, no, I don't want to do that. I want to, if I'm going to focus on it, I want to be in baseball. And so a fellow by the name of Bob Smith was the president of the NAIA Coach Association, and in 1976 we played in the College World Series. And Bob Smith saw our team play, and he liked the way we played. And so when opportunities developed on the USA team where an NAIA coach could go in, for some reason I was the first pick, and had several years of experience. And then Rod Dato in the '84 Olympic Games called and said, and I'd already had a number of years on the U.S. team, and Rod Dato called and said, hey, we'd want you to be on the staff. And my wife said, you know, you've been gone every year, so whatever, and I don't know if this would be right for you. But Dato, who's a sweet talked her, and I eventually went on the '84 Olympic team, and what a amazing deal to be around that, and then move on to 1988 when the iconic coaches of Mark Marquis, Skip Bertman, Ron Polk, Bob Milano, you know, Rich Allday were on that staff, and my advanced degree happened on the fields of USA baseball for sure.
Before we go, anyone else you wanted to thank or anything you wanted to say? We'll give you the floor here a little bit.
Well, you know, my number one fan, I guess, sitting over here, I always get choked up on her. But my wife, Janet, so there were a lot of 100+ hours of work, and you know, at Kansas there was an uphill battle, and there was only one way to get through it. And my coaches, and Lee Ice will tell you that I set them in a room and said, look, we're not taking a day off until we make the conference tournament, and it's 3 years. And they all committed with me that we would not take a day off for 3 years until we got to the conference tournament. And so those type of people, and so my wife was affected by that as well. My kids were affected by it, and they have stuck with me all the way, 52 years. And you know, we met in November, we got married in February, and 52 years later, we're still trying to learn about each other.
Well, congratulations, Dave. Appreciate it, and congratulations and welcome to the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame.
The 2024 Kansas Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Smoky Hills PBS is made possible in part by
At NextTech, we're about connecting and providing the best solutions to help the communities that we serve thrive. Now, after more than 70 years, we continue growing to serve you. We are community, we are connectivity, we are NextTech.
Congratulations to Annette Wiles on your successful career and induction into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame from the staff and customers of the Golden Q, downtown Hayes. Golden Q, if the game's on, we're open.
Fort Hays State University Athletics, State Bank of Downs, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Erik Kynard Jr. Erik is from Toledo, Ohio, where he's a two-time state high jump champion. He then came to Kansas State, where he won back-to-back outdoor high jump titles. He was an 8-time All-American for the Wildcats, a 2-time Olympian, including a gold medalist, which we'll learn a bit more today, I'm sure. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Hall of Famer Erik Kynard Jr. Before we begin our interview with Erik, I do want to introduce someone special. Earlier this year, Erik's collegiate coach, Cliff Revelto, announced his retirement. Cliff, you're here. Would you please stand? He's been around for a long time, if we could say. 36 years at Kansas State, including 32 as the head coach. He began his track coaching career in 1979 at McLouth High School. All told, he's overseen a track program that's produced 17 NCAA champions, 25 athletes have earned national runner-up, 21 have placed third during his tenure for his cross-country and track and field programs, 312 individual All-American honors, and 186 conference champions. Coach, congratulations. I remember you back in those early days, and have a great retirement.
All right, Erik, congratulations. Let's just start there. It's obviously special to have Coach here. What has he meant to you throughout your track and field career?
Well, everybody was joking tonight about him dragging me out here, but he literally is the reason I came to Kansas. I was a pretty good high jumper out of high school, and I could, at the time had my pick of universities that I could attend to pursue track and field, and I kind of had to wait for him to call, and I felt like, man, this guy who is the guru of the event that I'm attempting to pursue greatness in is taking forever to call my phone, and I found out later that he was the only person following the rules, and he was actually just exercising due diligence. But no, he's been great. He's been a definite staple and pillar in my life, not only in my development and maturation on the apron and on the track, but also as a young man. So I'm definitely appreciative of him, and for sure, no, I'm definitely appreciative.
Maybe give everybody an update what you're doing now.
Yeah, I'm very busy. So I flew here from Punta Cana, the Dominican Republic. I work for USA Track and Field, so I spent my summer doing whatever Coach Redwine told me to do in Paris for about a month. He didn't stand earlier, but I know he's sitting right here somewhere. And I work in high performance with USA Track and Field. So I now work to ensure that athletes not only have the great results, but also don't face the pitfalls of circumstance as it relates to their performances in the sport. So.
Talk a little bit about success, and what do you think made you successful in your career?
Well, I mean, I think success is a pending transaction for most people. The high jump is a very cerebral event, and it is very brutal in that it's literally you knock the bar down or it stays up. You know what I mean? So you kind of know instantaneously whether you're faced with that gratification or the despair of failure. For me, I've always just view life a little different. My mother had me when she was 16 years old. I'm 33 years old. It took a village to raise me, and I came to Kansas in search of, being great and just kind of focusing on great discipline. And I've always asked myself, what would I attempt to do if I couldn't fail? So I kind of just live life, that way. I didn't really and never have started believing in limitations. I was an athlete and vertically integrated into coaching at my alma mater, and then now I'm in high performance on the international level in the sport. And I just kind of, I set the bar and I kind of go jump at it and let
Literally.
them sit where they may in life. Yeah, no, literally.
When did you know that you were going to be a good high jumper? I mean, how do you fall into that and realize I'm pretty good at this?
Actually, my pursuit in the event came from my father was an athlete. He played football and ran track. He actually was recruited by Kansas State University and chose not to attend because he was having a son, at a very young age, which ended up being me. And for me, growing up, I always heard about, the importance of pursuing success by way of instruction and direction and not just aimlessness, So I knew that I needed to put myself not only at the behest of a good teacher, but also in an environment that can cultivate my maturation and growth as an individual. And because he had already visited Manhattan, he lived his life, 5 or 6 kids later saying, man, I should have moved to Kansas. And, lo and behold, I competed at the Olympic trials in 2008 as a 17-year-old high schooler and learned about the event that I was partaking in that came from, escaping, kind of the junior in the namesake of being my father's son as it relates to sports. So for me, it was about just blazing the trail of my own and, creating a name and legacy for my own self and kind of just developing individualism for me. So
You mentioned the Olympics. You're an Olympic gold medalist, but it maybe didn't come the way a traditional gold medal. Just explain that whole situation.
Yeah, so I competed at the Olympics in 2012. I was a junior at Kansas State University at the time. It was probably one of the most difficult years at the time of my life, for sure. I still remember going to my accounting professor, Fred, I won't say his last name, and telling him that you can give me an F in your class because I'm not going to take the final, because he told me you can take it early, but you can't take it. I mean, you could take it later, but you can't take it, early because of the other students, et cetera. And I said, hey, listen, accounting will still be accounting next semester, but the Olympics won't be here for another 4 years, So I just knew, at the time that what it is that I wanted to achieve. And I knew that I had, traveled and moved, from Toledo, Ohio, 863 or so miles to pursue that. Me and Coach Avelto had gone through a lot in our development of the student and coach relationship. I was very appreciative of, him being tolerant and patient with me because I didn't make it easy, looking back at it. Ambition is dangerous, and especially when you're willing to do any and everything as it relates to the work is concerned. I was definitely one who had to learn how to be patient, and I think in my pursuit of success and me having to wait for a gold medal, it worked out on the time that it needed to for me. As a 21-year-old young man in Manhattan, Kansas, I don't know that I would have fared too well going around Aggieville looking for cheeseburgers late at night. As an Olympic gold medalist, I think I needed the meekness and the humility to be a silver medalist for a time, to grow into the man that was worthy of the medal, so for sure.
And for those who don't know, he finished second, but then the champion was disqualified for doping, and then you became the gold medalist. It took like 12 years. You kind of touched on, do you feel you missed out a little bit though? Just, it's not, you don't get to bask in the glory at the stadium, the national anthem playing, and you're on the top step of the podium.
No, I don't think it was a mistake. Like I stated, I don't think I missed out. I mean, well, financially I definitely missed out. However, I don't think I missed out as related to me and my story and what was best for me in my life, honestly. I think it worked out the way it needed to. I knew that guy was a cheater back then, so it wasn't unknown to me. It was just that sportsmanship dictated that I not be a sore loser, and I couldn't prove any of those things. So for me, it was just, I was working and always have worked to be the best Erik Kynard Jr. that exists, unbeknownst to who was doing what else in whatever realm. So I wasn't working so much in my career or my life to beat him. I was working to be better than myself. So.
And you were on David Letterman, I believe, also. I'm sure it wasn't nearly as exciting as this, but what was that experience like?
Not at all. Oh, it was, hey, listen, it made it hard to go back to school, I'll tell you that. it made, going back to school, leaving the Big Apple and returning to Little Apple, because literally at that time, I think that it was about 4 days. I had missed, I was notorious for missing months of school, honestly, but for athletic purposes,
Yes.
of course.
Of course.
But at the time, it was fun. It was fun. I definitely enjoyed the time, and I definitely now, as I've moved on from Kansas and then am into the great big world again, traveling hundreds of thousands of miles a year, miss the pace of, the Little Apple and the community aspect as it relates to the relationships with people. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. You seldom, now with technology and headphones, people seldomly speak anymore.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it is, Kansas was great for me and a great time for my development in my career and in my life. So.
Well, we're glad Coach Revelto got you back. Before we let you go, we'll go ahead and give you the floor. Anything you want to say or anyone you want to shout out to?
Well, I definitely want to thank all of you for being here and the fellow inductees. I think being an Ohio native and also probably the youngest inductee, I didn't understand the significance and importance of what it was that I was coming to be a part of. And I think in this evening and like Coach Revelto, like you were always saying, he dragged me out here. And then this evening and learning about, the great coaches and athletes and the impacts that they've not only had on the community in the state of Kansas, but also the impact that the community and the state has had on them and their careers and development has been great. Because in ways, although we've spent different durations of our life and time here, it's had the same impact and on me and my development. And I want to thank one person here, Carol Revelto, Coach Revelto's wife. She's sitting right behind him. She has had the toughest job out of everybody. And I can speak firsthand or secondhand or whatever on that, because not only did she have to deal with him, but she was also for a long period of time at Kansas State, the director of operations. So she had to deal with me and all the young ones that came after. But she was also a part of the development of not only the program, but the athletes there. And I think she was great for that. And I just don't want to miss out on giving her a shout out for being a special person in my life as well.
Well done. Erik, we appreciate it. We're so glad you're back. Yeah. And congratulations into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame.
Erik, that was awesome. We mentioned Coach Revelto. We are fortunate to have his replacement with us tonight, coming from the University of Arkansas as assistant coach. And if you know anything about track and field, Arkansas is up there. Travis Geffert, would you please stand? New coach at Kansas State. Welcome to Kansas.
The 2024 Kansas Sports Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony on Smoky Hills PBS is made possible in part by
At NextTech, we're about connecting and providing the best solutions to help the communities that we serve thrive. Now, after more than 70 years, we continue growing to serve you. We are community, we are connectivity, we are NextTech.
Congratulations to Annette Wiles on your successful career and induction into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame from the staff and customers of the Golden Q, downtown Hayes. Golden Q, if the game's on, we're open.
Fort Hays State University Athletics, State Bank of Downs, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Melvin Lister III. Melvin was born in New York City and began a successful career at Leavenworth High School. He's a 4-time state triple jump champion for Leavenworth. He's one of only 7 boys to have won the same event 4 times at a Kansas State high school track championship. He was a 5-time national JUCO champion at Butler Community College, a 5-time NCAA champion at Arkansas, still holds the triple jump record at the Olympic trials, 2-time Olympian. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Melvin Lister III.
Congratulations and welcome to the Sports Hall of Fame. Kind of like we have done with everybody else, just a little bit about your journey and just your thoughts on being inducted in the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. What did it mean when you got that phone call that you're going to be a new inductee?
I thought it was a joke when I first called. I thought I was being pranked, but nah, it's an honor to be celebrated in this way by a whole state. You know, I always thought my corner of the earth, or my corner of the state, was the ones who celebrated me, and come to find out, my whole state celebrated me. So I appreciate that.
Now you were born in New York, and then how did you wind up in Leavenworth, Kansas?
Dad was in the military.
Very good.
So Leavenworth.
And I guess, you know, we talk a lot about success. What lent you to your success, and just to being able to lead you to track and field and the events you were in, and when did you have an inkling that I might be pretty good at some of this stuff?
Well, when I was younger, you couldn't tell me I wasn't going to be in the NFL. That was my dream. But going to Butler County Community College, it changed some. I think that just putting yourself in the right situation, that does it, because it'll make you conform to what needs to happen. And if that's what you want, then you'll make it happen.
So you went to Butler, played football and track.
No, I didn't play football.
Okay, you didn't.
So what happened was I signed with Butler, and before I went to Butler, I made the World Junior Olympic team.
Okay.
And they were taking us to Australia to compete against the world. And I talked to my football coach, who told me I needed to show up for tour-a-days during the time of the World Junior Olympics in Sydney, Australia. I had to go.
Absolutely.
This could have been the last situation, the last experience that I've had with this. Who knows where it was going to take me. So I had to go. So then after that, I kind of lost love for football. So I feel like I was pointed towards track. Track was my fate.
And then you went to Butler and obviously had success and all the great success
Absolutely.
at Arkansas. I understand your father didn't necessarily know you were involved in sports until he saw a picture of you in the paper?
Yeah, we because he wanted me to play the saxophone. and my nephew's doing that for him now. Even after his pass, Sean, thank you for doing that for Granddad. But yeah, and then our neighbor bought over a paper, the sports page, and it had me on the cover. And that's another thing that I'm thankful for Kansas for. Kansas, you guys do this for the kids. Please don't stop, because they enjoy it and it makes them better people. So after he seen that I was kind of good. So, I mean, my parents jumped head over heels in to helping me be successful in sports.
So you were good in triple jump, long jump. Are they a lot alike? What are the differences, similarities in those two events?
They're nothing alike. So we used to say people who couldn't long jump, triple jump. It kind of gave you an extra chance to get a good jump in. But yeah, I often thought that if I chose one, maybe I could have been an Olympic champion too. I went back and forth. It was just a lot of work and slightly different on each one. But I couldn't give up either one. So they're different, but I had to do it. And in college, I was dominant, and I just couldn't get it done at the Olympics. That's all.
Okay, I know every dad likes to talk about their daughter. We understand your daughter is really, really good, kind of following in her dad's footsteps.
Yes, absolutely. Simone Lister, would you please stand up?
You're going to embarrass her.
Yeah. This 13-year-old little girl has made my life crazy. I never thought that I'd love track so much again. And she's brought it back for me. Thank you, baby.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I never did at the beginning kind of ask you where you're at now and get us up to date with what you're doing.
Well, we're in Oklahoma City. I work for AT&T.
Okay.
And I coach for Carl Albert High School, and that's where my daughter's at. So I am really busy, but I enjoy every minute of it.
And then I understand you and your wife, you have a food truck. That's what we really want to know about, because I heard it's outstanding.
Yes. Maybe we should have bought some cakes, but yeah,
Well, maybe you
we
can cater this
specialize.
next year.
We specialize in cakes, pound cakes. We do fruit infused water, pies. This all started from my wife's grandmother. Their family is a family of bakers, and they dreamed this up, and working with them, this has become a reality. So yeah,
That's awesome. Well, maybe we can work something out next year and we can have some cakes. I think pies, everybody would be for that. Before we let you go, like everybody else, I'll just give you the floor. Anyone you want to thank, and any mentors, anything before you go here tonight.
first I want to thank my crew over here, my family, friends. They go everywhere with me, no matter what's going on. They are awesome. And I want to thank and I know he's not here, but my college coach, Coach Dick Booth. He is the greatest jump coach on the face of the planet. And I'll match him against anybody. And I want to thank the state of Kansas, because this is great. Person can't dream of it being this good. I mean,
Melvin, congratulations. Glad to have you back in the state, and welcome to the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame.
The 2024 Kansas Sports Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony on Smoky Hills PBS is made possible in part by
At NextTech, we're about connecting and providing the best solutions to help the communities that we serve thrive. Now, after more than 70 years, we continue growing to serve you. We are community, we are connectivity, we are NextTech.
Congratulations to Annette Wiles on your successful career and induction into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame from the staff and customers of the Golden Q, downtown Hayes. Golden Q, if the game's on, we're open.
Fort Hays State University Athletics, State Bank of Downs, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Some of you may have heard, but Coach Mangino came down with COVID, unfortunately, so he'll not be with us tonight. But we'll honor him by inducting him, and he'll be back with us next year. Our next honoree is Ron Nugent. Ron is from Wichita, swam for the Wichita Swim Club, swam collegiately at SMU, and then finished at the University of Kansas. Over the course of 2 years at KU, he set 5 school and 2 Big 8 records. Later won 2 Big 8 individual titles. In 1979, he burst onto the national scene by winning the 1,500-meter freestyle at the World University Games, defeating that Russian. 3 lengths, right? He's also a member of the 1980 U.S. Olympic team. Unfortunately, that one boycotted, but was on the team the next year, the 81 national team that went to Moscow and swam. And then on September 5th, 1982, set the American record for a 25-meter pool in the 1,500-meter freestyle. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Hall of Famer Ron Nugent.
Ron, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.
We'll start out, kind of maybe an update, what you're doing now and where you're at.
I live in Wichita, my hometown, born and raised there, and I have been an orthodontist there for 32 years.
Very good. I've asked a lot of the folks so far about their success. What would you, and it's hard to say one thing, but what lent you to the career you had to get you to this place here today?
Well, I had a lot of great teammates and a lot of great coaches. I have some of my teammates here, guys I've swam with since I was 10 years old. So when I was 16, I went to Wichita East High School, and I checked out a book called 6 Days to Swim. And it's a story about Jeff Farrell, who's also a member of the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. And Jeff Farrell had an emergency appendectomy 6 days before the 1960 Olympic trials, and then he went on to make the Olympic team. He was one of the best freestyle sprinters in the world, but it was just a very gutsy and gritty story, and it taught me that a kid that went to Wichita East and swam at Wichita Swim Club could make the Olympic team. And so that really kind of opened my eyes. And then later that year, I went to an Olympic development camp, and I learned that what we were doing at Wichita Swim Club, we were working out and swimming just as fast in practice as the other swimmers at the camp who I'd read about in Swimming World and were famous. I wasn't famous at that time. But it taught me that I could do just what the other swimming greats were doing.
Jeff mentioned the 1,500 meters at the World University Games. Just tell us about that race. What do you remember from that?
Well, the 1979 World University Games were in Mexico City, which is, I think it's like maybe 6,500 feet altitude.
Yeah.
And so we went to Colorado Springs. I qualified at the national championships to be on this team. And so we went to Colorado Springs for a week to kind of acclimate to altitude. And then in the race, I was seated probably third or fourth. And the head USA coach came up to me before the race and he said, "Now, Ron, we're at altitude. I want you to kind of take it easier than normal." And we'd been working out there for 4 or 5 days, and I hadn't really felt the effects of altitude much. And so I said, "Coach, it really hasn't bothered me. I'm going to swim my normal race, and we'll see how it goes." And so the race went on, and I ended up winning by 8 seconds. And after that race, the head coach of the team came up to me, and he said, "Ron, I really think if you dedicate yourself next year, you have a chance to make the Olympic team, the U.S. Olympic swimming team." And that just kind of, it opened my eyes, I don't know that I had that much confidence in me prior to that, but when a national team coach told me that, I really decided I wanted to try to make that Olympic team.
And you do, and then obviously the U.S. boycotts the games, and you don't get to go. How did that feel? Obviously, it had to feel awful, but just, when that decision was made, because that was your shot, that just had to be heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was disappointing. I took a year off from college, worked part-time at St. Francis Hospital in Wichita, and so March comes around and President Jimmy Carter announces that the U.S. will not send a team to the Olympic Games, the 1980 Olympic Games in Moscow, because the Soviet Union's military had invaded Afghanistan. And he felt like if we sent a team, that it would send a message to the Soviet people that we supported their military's action. And so the boycott was announced, and we still, my goal was still to make the team. We were still having an Olympic trials, and so my focus was still make the team, knowing that we were not going to send a team.
And you got to go to the next year, like I said. So what was that like then?
Okay, so in 1981, I qualified to swim on the national team that was swimming in a dual meet against the Soviet team in Kiev. And so we ended up winning the meet 203 to 141 and felt pretty good.
Do you still swim today? Do you still a little bit?
I do still swim. I swim with some of the guys here, and I swim each morning before I go into work. And some mornings there's more talking than swimming, but I think at age 64 that's probably how it should be.
You kind of touched on, Kansas not exactly known as a swimming state. Obviously you kind of changed that a little bit, but I know you mentioned the book, but where do you get the idea of, I think I'm going to be a swimmer?
I had an older brother and sister, Paula, who's here. My older brother, Roger, they swam. They started swimming at Boeing Swim Club. And so then the summer that I turned 8, I believe, I also started swimming on Boeing Swim Club, and the pool was an outdoor 50-meter pool, unheated, cold as can be in my opinion, and I could only swim about 5 yards, and I'd stop and grab the lean rope. So after about 3 practices, I told my mom I was done. Okay, this is not for me. So, and then the next winter we started swimming again at an indoor pool at the Wichita YMCA, and the water was warm and it was fun.
Well, we're glad you stuck with it.
Yeah, thank you.
Before we let you go, we'll give you the floor. Anyone you want to thank, anything you want to say?
Well, I mean, I want to thank my wife, Michelle, and my kids, Natalie and Luke, for coming tonight. I want to thank my swimming friends for being here. I really owe a lot to them. They push me in practices. I push them. But, you know, in swimming, you've got to have that camaraderie and people helping you along to kind of, you know, to get better as you go. And then all my swim coaches. I was very fortunate that I had good swim coaches from a young age. So I guess the only thing I'd really like to say, though, is, you know, the 1980 team that I was part of, we've been described as the forgotten Olympic team. You know, there aren't any statistics about our Olympic Games with the USA, you know, athletes. So I guess I would just like to ask each of you that every 4 years around, when the Olympic Games come around, remember the 1980 Olympic team, okay?
Done. Ron, we appreciate it so much. Thank you for being here, and congratulations, and welcome to the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's an honor. Okay.
The 2024 Kansas Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Smoky Hills PBS is made possible in part by
At NextTech, we're about connecting and providing the best solutions to help the communities that we serve thrive. Now, after more than 70 years, we continue growing to serve you. We are community, we are connectivity, we are NextTech.
Congratulations to Annette Wiles on your successful career and induction into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame from the staff and customers of the Golden Q, downtown Hayes. Golden Q, if the game's on, we're open.
Fort Hays State University Athletics, State Bank of Downs, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Kelly Rankin. Kelly was born in Clinton, Oklahoma, and moved to Clay Center for high school. He competed in baseball and track at the University of Kansas. As we've heard, he is a teammate of Billy Mills and the great miler Bill Dotson. Kelly began his career in officiating in 1968 doing gymnastics meets and then track and field. He's officiated hundreds, if not thousands, of events, including 5 Big 8 championships in gymnastics, NCAA indoor and outdoor track meets, NAIA indoor and outdoor, Olympic trials, and of course the Olympics. He's the only American to be the head starter for 2 Olympic Games. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Hall of Famer Kelly Rankin.
Welcome. Congratulations. We might start and mention that Billy Mills and you were at KU together and ran track. Just him being here, what's the real story, I guess, what we're trying to say?
Lifelong friend.
What was it like? I mean, obviously, the success he had, could you tell that he was going to be on for great things?
Yeah, so I came from Clay Center, and Billy ran for Haskell. Bill Dodson, a former inductee, came from Concordia and Jamestown. So in the high school meet, we were in different classes, but our names were, you know, Billy Mills, this one, Bill Dodson, and I was a sprinter, not those 2 guys that ran forever.
Obviously, KU's had great track and field. Talk about Coach Bill Easton a little bit.
Tough. I was talking to Billy earlier. I can remember he was a distance coach. We were sprinters and hurdlers, and we watched him. If he was here, we were here. If he went this way, we went that way. We stayed 220 yards away from him until he walked across the track, and he had us dead end, and he just killed us, run.
So you're born in Oklahoma, made your way to Clay Center, Kansas. Tell us about that.
Well, my grandparents were getting elderly and needed us to be there, so little town in Oklahoma. There were 12 in my class, about 350 in the town, and moved to Clay Center, and there was 118 in my class. I thought, wow, I've never seen so many kids in my life. Then went to KU, and then it was, wow, really big. But small town, can't beat it. We were state champions in football 2 years, and basketball, indoor track. It's just a farm community. I'm glad I was fortunate enough to be brought up in.
How does one become a starter for track and field?
Yeah.
I'm sure you've never been asked that
No.
before.
Well, some folks may recognize the name Dick Patterson. He coached track and was football coach at Curtis Junior High here in town. And my first teaching job out of KU was at Grant, also in North Topeka. My sixth graders went to Curtis. And he knew I had run, and so he called me up one day and said, you want to start a track meet? And the gun goes, you go. I knew nothing about the inner workings of a starter, but I said yes, and I began to work my way up the ladder with Highland Park, Topeka West, Topeka High. Finally, Dick Godlove took me under his wing at Washburn, and from there I went to Emporia State and started those meets with the NAIA, and that opened the door, the right place at the right time. I got into the NAIA organization and became the head starter for them, and traveled all over the United States, outdoors, indoors. Indoors, we were in Kansas City, we were in University of Nebraska, Johnson City. Outdoors, my gosh, we were all over the country, and that helped me become exposed nationally when it came to being looked at as a possible starter for the games. And so the NAIA I owe a great deal to. They opened the door for me.
We talk about success, and we've talked about it with the prior inductees. How does one become a successful starter? What skill? What's the key for your success to take your career the way it did as a starter?
I get that. A starter. It's like a athletic director that goes into the faculty's lounge and at lunchtime say, "Anybody know how to shoot a gun? You want to start my meet this afternoon?" Heaven forbid. But I owe it to starters that I observed and worked with throughout my career moving up the ladder. But the key was calmness, cool, vanilla. When you have 9 fastest runners in the world, the slightest sound could set them off. And when you say set, they come up. You have to be able to feel that feeling at that instant, go or stand up. A child kicks the fence. Jets go over, motorcycles go by, train comes by. All these things, stand up, let's try it again. On your marks, set. And when we give them time to get set, that's when you let them go. But you've got to be calm and in control, and I think the calmness is the key thing.
I think hearing you speak, we can understand why you've been so successful, just the way you handle yourself. 2 Olympic Games. What's that stage like? I mean, it's the Olympic Games, thousands and thousands in the stands, millions and millions watching, and you're the guy starting the races.
Yeah, Michael Johnson's in Leavenworth.
Okay, yes.
You're so engrossed in it, you don't think about getting nervous. You just have jobs to do, and millions of people watching the television, 100,000 in the stadium watching lane 4 where Michael Johnson is, and you're thinking, don't screw this one up. And we march out, take our positions. The athletes come out about 10 minutes before the races to go. They begin their warm-up, setting the blocks. Meantime, we stand up. My recall starters, I always have anywhere from 3 to 4 starters. And when I stand up, they stand up. I take my position up on the podium, and the clock is ticking. They put their sweats in a basket. The basket runners remove off the track. The TV camera is on them. You wait till that umbilical cord's off the track, and you're watching the clock. 15 seconds. That about 15 seconds before, on your mark. Get them in the blocks. At that point, then you're ready, set, and then the gun. It's pretty great.
I can see that. You kind of touched a little bit. Any race or any athlete stand out at a race you started?
Of course, Michael Johnson, when he set the world record with his gold shoes. Linford Christie stands out in Atlanta. He was first from Great Britain. At that time, it was 2 jumps. Now it's 1 jump, and you're out. He sort of poo-pooed the first time, and timing is electronic. The head starter has earphones into the computer. The computer goes to all 9 blocks, hooked to the pedal of the starting box. If the athlete pushes off within 1,000th of a second before the gun, beep, 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 they have gone and beat the gun, false start. So there's no guessing. I mean, you come up, you hold, you react, you don't anticipate. And he was disqualified. First time in Olympic history the sprinter had been disqualified. Unfortunate, because he was one of the top sprinters. But a rule is a rule, and my job as an official is to enforce the rules and see that everybody gets a fair start.
Before we let you go, anyone you want to thank, anything you wanted to say here to the crowd tonight?
I have a family of sports athletes, a son that jumped at the University of Idaho and now has raised a steelhead for the state of Idaho. A daughter that threw the javelin at Washington State, and she was a retired law officer. And Jennifer is a physical therapist. Would have been going to Washington State for gymnastics, but they dropped the sport. So but many of you out there, you know you love your grandsons and granddaughters. 5 grandsons. 1 just graduated from West Point, flying helicopters in Alabama. 1 a sergeant ranger, advanced combat medic out of Fort Lewis. 1 that just became a national champion in the javelin, Division III in South Carolina. He'll be a fireman someday. The daughter of Jennifer, our son, he's a physical therapist at the University of Idaho. And the baby is a junior in high school. Looks like maybe he might be an architect. So
no starters, but great careers.
Great careers, right.
Kelly, congratulations. That was fascinating. I think it's something that none of us ever think about, and that's so awesome that you're in the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
The 2024 Kansas Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Smoky Hills PBS is made possible in part by
At NextTech, we're about connecting and providing the best solutions to help the communities that we serve thrive. Now, after more than 70 years, we continue growing to serve you. We are community, we are connectivity, we are NextTech.
Congratulations to Annette Wiles on your successful career and induction into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame from the staff and customers of the Golden Q, downtown Hayes. Golden Q, if the game's on, we're open.
Fort Hays State University Athletics, State Bank of Downs, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Scott Russell. Scott's originally from Windsor, Ontario, Canada, participated for KU in track in the throwing events. He's a 9-time Big 12 Conference and 2-time NCAA Conference champion. He was the Big 12 Outdoor Championship Performer of the Year in 2002. He was an academic All-American in 2002 as well. Still owns the javelin record for Kansas and the Canadian national team. He competed in the 2008 Olympics for Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Hall of Famer Scott Russell. Okay, before we start with Scott, this person's been talked about a little bit tonight, but this time we're going to make him stand. Coach Redwine, would you please stand? Stanley Redwine, the head coach of the University of Kansas. He was the U.S. coach for the men's track and field team at the Olympic Games, medaled in 9 of 10 events for the first time since 1920. Could be argued the most successful track and field for the track team in Olympic history. Should also be mentioned you had 2 student athletes who finished 4th. Bryce Hoppel in the 800-meter set an American record, and in the marathon, Sharon Lokady. Coach, congratulations. Thank you for joining us. We should also mention that Coach Reynolds, Doug Reynolds, is here as well. He was a stand-up coach, if you want, please, come on. He was Scott's coach at KU as well.
Scott, congratulations.
Thank you.
I guess we'll start with Coach Redwine. What's him being here and your coaches to be here, part of this tonight? What were they like?
Pretty special out there here, honestly. I talked to Doug earlier, and he was like, hey, I think I'm going to be there. I'm like, great. I didn't know Coach Redwine was going to be here tonight, so for that, I'm grateful because I wasn't sure that he would be. So I thank you, Stan, for being here. It means a ton to have you here, and I don't know how to say it any other way for both of you guys to be part of this.
That's awesome. We've asked everybody maybe an update, what you're doing now, where you're living.
Living now in Eudora, Kansas. So shortly after graduating, I worked in a physical therapy field for a few years, and then my now wife convinced me when I was trying to figure out life. She's like, well, why don't you get into teaching? And it's always been in my family. So it was my mom ran a daycare out of the house. My 2 sisters are running in daycares up in Canada. So I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, okay, math, biology. I really kind of got into those in college. And Tiffany, my wife, says, like, why would you do that to yourself? You get paid the same as much amount as a PE teacher.
I was thinking the same thing.
Really? I'm like, that's pretty outstanding. So I pursued my master's degree in pedagogy, and then landed a job in Basel Linwood where I taught for 13 years. And a job just recently opened up in our hometown of Eudora, Kansas. So now I'm doing strength and conditioning at their high school there.
Very good. Shocking strength and conditioning coach. Canadian, you mentioned that.
Yes.
How did you find the University of Kansas?
Kind of circumstances, actually. I got recruited by the University of Kansas. Gary Schwartz was the head coach at that time, and their throws coach, Laurie Leroux, was a fellow Canadian and from the same hometown of Windsor. So it was really some connections. I got also recruited by Coach Rainbolt at Wichita State. And at the time, now I definitely know, but at the time I was like, Wichita, what's Wichita? And in fact, even when I visited the University of Kansas, Coach Leroux picks me up at the airport, and I was like, oh, where in Kansas City is it? And she's like, it's actually in Lawrence, Kansas. It's about a 45-minute drive. I go, oh, wow, like, had no idea. Like, things are so different now with the internet and the ability to learn more about the institutions, but I knew I was going to visit this person who had ties to my hometown, met a lot of the athletes on the team during my recruiting trip, and it was just felt like the right place, felt like home, and through the years there, it definitely paid off.
You're Canadian. I couldn't find it anywhere, but I didn't see hockey at all in your background. Is that accurate?
It's totally accurate,
okay.
Other than playing on frozen ponds in a ditch beside the railway tracks by our house. I had a friend who played a bit, and his coach wanted me to be a goon. Slapshot style if you've seen the movie. But
Again, shocking.
But I was terrible on skates, and I couldn't have played the game at all.
That's fine. You're probably a better goalkeeper, though, I think. I mean, you're a big enough guy, you probably block it.
I am a little bigger than I was when I competed, that is for sure.
How did you gravitate toward the throws? What did you get involved in then and realize that you were pretty good at it?
Honestly, my freshman year is when I first got introduced to the throws. My brother was part of the track team, and I pretty much idolized the guy. He's about 2.5 years older than me. So anything he did was like gold. So I was like, okay, Mike's a basketball player, I'll do that. Mike's a track athlete, I'll do that. Mike's super smart. I don't know how to do that yet. But honestly, it was just following my brother's footsteps. And my freshman year, I was terrible. I was the 4th best freshman javelin thrower, or the 4 freshman javelin throwers. And I nearly quit the sport my freshman year. My high school coach, Coach Ouellette, the next year I came, I was like, Coach, I'm just going to throw shot put and disc this year. He says, you got to give it one more year. And that's kind of where everything clicked for me. That year I won our under 15 provincial championships, which is the equivalent of a state at my age group. And every year from there I got better and better, personal record after personal record, and it kind of got me to where I am now, which is Kansas.
Well, I think we see why you competed in those events. Obviously, you're a big guy. The javelin, hammer, shot, weight, are they similar, different? I mean, how do you go about those different events?
Concepts of the event are very similar. Throw something that's fairly heavy very far, which obviously I enjoyed a lot because I did the 5 throwing events in track and field. But the mastery of the technique is kind of where it really is at. Coach Reynolds is one of the guys that really helped me out with my training and understanding training, and actually had me start learning training myself to write my own programming out in 2004. But the events are so different. It's, even Melvin had mentioned it earlier about the long jump and triple jump, and like, could you have done better at other things, or one of them probably. I fell in love with javelin. I really loved the indoor weight throw, and obviously those were the 2 I was most successful at. And at the time, like, javelin was just like, I was better ranked in everything else, or not in everything else but the javelin, so it was logical to go and try a professional career there.
Now, you competed in the Olympics for Canada. Yep. What was that experience like for you?
Unbelievable. You try to qualify for a team in 2000 in Sydney, and I didn't make it. It's 4 more years of training to try for 2004 in Athens, and you don't qualify again, and it's like, okay, am I going to do this for 4 more years? And I just was fiercely driven to make it happen. I had a 4th grade teacher that introduced me to the Olympic Games. We did a 2-week unit, and it was just something that was always kind of like in me that I wanted to do. And so I went another 4 years in 2008 and had some injuries through that season, but I almost willed myself to the game at that point. And the experience itself, like, I don't know if you can work for something that long and truly appreciate the moment there, like when you've searched for so long, and you're kind of just like standing on the infield in opening ceremonies, and you're like this is it, like, this is incredible. And then other experiences, my wife and my mother-in-law were at the games, and walking off the field at the end, you're like, was that it? Everyone asks, like, hey, what medal did you get? And I'm like, well, I was 10th. I have a participation medal from the Olympics. So it's interesting to meet, guys like Erik tonight, and have a very different perspective of the sport. But it took me a while, and finally realized that you have to continue to do these things because you have passion for them and you have love for them, which is kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing now at Eudora High School. And I coach middle schoolers, and I coach a small youth track club.
God bless you. Before we'll give you the floor, anyone you want to thank, anything you want to say to everybody here tonight?
Obviously my parents, Dan and Cheryl, they're here tonight, and without them, I wouldn't be here, number one.
Literally.
But the exposure that they gave me as a youth in terms of sport and baseball and water polo and basketball and volleyball, like you name the sport I've played, it was provided opportunity. My in-laws and their support over the last few years, I think I accidentally called Pam my mom once, and I think she broke into tears. But I truly feel like they're part of the family. And then my 3 kids are in the room, and when I became an American citizen in 2021, because of COVID, I wasn't allowed to have them at my swearing in. So this night for me is a little bit of them getting to see and have that special moment with me. And then without my wife, my manager, as some of you guys know, I wouldn't have had the opportunities I had when I met her in '05. There was something really consistent, and how she supported me through everything. It's like, oh, you're going to Germany for like 2 weeks? Okay, no problem. And it just kind of resumed. It became easy to be with her. And I think I'm probably not the easiest from time to time. So to have her support myself as well as our kids. If you saw our calendar, it's insane. But truthfully, they're a great support system for me for my entire life.
Scott, well done. Congratulations. Welcome to the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame.
The 2024 Kansas Sports Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony on Smoky Hills PBS is made possible in part by
At NextTech, we're about connecting and providing the best solutions to help the communities that we serve thrive. Now, after more than 70 years, we continue growing to serve you. We are community, we are connectivity, we are NextTech.
Congratulations to Annette Wiles on your successful career and induction into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame from the staff and customers of the Golden Q, downtown Hayes. Golden Q, if the game's on, we're open.
Fort Hays State University Athletics, State Bank of Downs, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Kevin Saunders. Kevin was born in Smith Center, went to Downs High School, and after competing at Pratt Community College, finished his education at Kansas State. Probably the most truly amazing story here tonight is Kevin's development as a para-athlete. Two-time Olympic bronze medalist in '88 and '92. He's named to the President's Council on Sports Fitness and Nutrition in 1989 by George Bush, later reappointed by Bill Clinton. He was inducted to the Adaptive Sports USA Hall of Fame in 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Hall of Famer Kevin Saunders.
All right, Kevin, welcome. Congratulations. Maybe give everybody an update what you're up to now.
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say to God be the glory for for surviving that big explosion and having the opportunity to be an athlete and to play sports in high school, college, and rugby in Kansas and Texas, and all the people that are here to support me. So, right now I'm a motivational speaker, author, and keynote speaker and safety speaker, because I was hurt on the job because of an accident that people made mistakes and they didn't want to correct them, and it was cheaper to take human life than to fix the problem for a few $1 million. So they had to spend over hundreds of millions to get the thing built back up after that.
Maybe for those who don't know, tell us about that fateful day that obviously changed your life.
Well, it was quite an experience. I went in there, and the first day, I was a federal inspector for the USDA after I graduated from Kansas State University. And I told them the grain dust collection systems weren't working at all. And to top it off, there was a guy taking safety shortcuts. And that can be just hazardous and create chaos in many ways and cost many lives. And that's exactly what happened. So within 24 hours, they didn't do anything. And they said, we don't have time to do anything. And they didn't. And 24 hours later, less than 24 hours, the place exploded and killed 10 people and blew me out of the roof over a 2-story building, over 300 feet, onto a concrete parking lot. So I landed on the back of my head and my shoulders. My skull was fractured, my scapula was fractured, my legs were blown over my torso, So my body was broken over at my chest like you bend in the waist to touch your toes. So, you know, I truly say it's a miracle, and to God be the glory for all my accomplishments.
So going from that, when do you decide I'm going to be a world-class athlete?
Well, it was kind of by accident because my brother, older brother Gerald, who was the CPA near Atlanta, Georgia, invited me to come run the Peachtree Road Race. Maybe some of you have heard of it. It's a 10K road race. It's one of the largest in the world. And he said he'd seen athletes racing there the year before. So I trusted my instincts, and I went. And I got on the plane. I just grabbed some racquetball gloves, a pair of warm-up pants, and a T-shirt, and away I went for Atlanta, Georgia. So when I showed up in the starting line, I was in my old hospital chair. Y'all know the kind, right? The big old bulky, clumsy, heavy wheelchairs. That's what I used for my racer until I got to the starting line, and I saw these guys in what looked like drag racing wheelchairs. And they looked at me and they said, "Hey, buddy, you better get in your racer. It's almost time for the race to start." Well, I looked back at them and I said, "Hey," I said, "I'm already in it." I figured I could beat those disabled guys with an old hospital chair or not. But, you know, when they fired a gun on that starting line, I bared down on that old hospital chair and I took off. I tried to burn a little rubber on Peachtree Street there in Atlanta, Georgia. But when I looked up, those guys in those racing wheelchairs were almost out of sight. And at the largest 10Ks around the world, which Atlanta, the Peachtree was one of them, over 50,000 people, they start the wheelchair athletes 30 minutes before the foot racers. And if a foot racer catches a wheelchair athlete, the wheelchair athlete must immediately leave the race course for safety reasons. So I was pushing and I got to mile 4, I found out later. I didn't even know what a K was. We were converting from yards to meters, so, you know, I'd heard a special K, the breakfast cereal, but that's about as far as I got with the Ks. But I was at mile 4, and I looked up and I saw this hill. It was about a 45-degree angle and about a mile long. And to top it off, there's a sign at the bottom that says, "Cardiac Hill." So I looked at my racquetball gloves that were shredded, and my hands were blistered because I'd been training anaerobically with my rugby buddies. One of them's here tonight from Texas, Robert Hayes. But I was ripped up like Rambo, but I didn't have any aerobic ability. So when I looked at my hands and I looked at that hill, a mile long at a 45-degree angle, and I looked at that sign again, said "Cardiac Hill," I said, "No way, I ain't going to make it up that hill." But, you know, we all get at the bottom of the hill, you know, in life sometimes, where we get into those hills and those obstacles we think we just can't get over, no matter what age we may be. But for me that day, what brought over the spirit and the motivation is they was playing some music on the side of that hill. It went something like this. Dun, 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 dun. You can hear it. "Yo, Adrian!" Right? And I could see him drinking that glass full of raw eggs and beating the beef in the meat locker and breaking the ribs on those sides of beef. And something just come over me. So I started to inch that old hospital chair up that cardiac hill. And when I finally topped over the top foot runners went by me as I started downhill. And I could see the finish line. But Kip Kano from Kenya and Craig Virgin from the USA went around me. I was running alongside them for a little while, and I thought, this is pretty neat, but I thought they ran the 10,000 meter. I never heard of the K. And then all of a sudden, this great big lady come off the side of Peachtree Street in Atlanta, Georgia, and she grabbed me. And she says, "Hey, you got to get off the race course right now." and she had a Peachtree Road Race official T-shirt on. And she said, "It's the rule." And I said, "No way, lady. I come this far, and I'm not going to stop now." So I pushed loose from her grip. And I wasn't going to, after going up Cardiac Hill, I wasn't about to stop. And I had downhill, and I could see the finish line. But this in the 80s was before I thought I didn't see any big bag with a cell phone that this lady had. So I looked over my shoulder, I saw the gap widening, and I thought, she's never going to catch me to that finish line. But I think she must have had some kind of radio communication device on her, because she radioed ahead and got 3 more race officials that looked just like her. So they set up that defensive front 3 that we'd run at Kansas State when I was working with Bill Snyder sometimes. And, I had to think back to my college football days. I got some college football friends that I played with that are over here tonight. But I had to run for that weak spot of that line. And I got through that, but then they got 8 more road race officials, and they got their hands all over me. And they pulled me from the race that day. I never got to that finish line. But, I tell you, I had tears come to my eyes when I didn't, because I never not finished anything in my life. I'd always been an athlete. Sports were always important to me. So I really wanted to get to that finish line. But that's the day that I ordered one of those drag racing wheelchairs. And I set a goal, because the 88 games were coming up, the Paralympics in Seoul, South Korea, where they held them in conjunction with the Olympic Games. And I put down on a piece of paper that I put up in our house, my room, and I said, Medalist, Seoul, 1988. And I learned how to train and how to eat right to be a top wheelchair athlete in the world and be a Paralympian and a Paralympic medalist.
That's awesome. Great inspirational story. Absolutely. You had a chance to work on the President's Council for Fitness, Sports, and Nutrition under President Bush and President Clinton. What a great honor that must have been.
Absolutely. I enjoyed being with Bill Clinton. He's a lot of fun to hang around with.
I can imagine.
But, there's a lot of great people on the President's Fitness Council, and you get to meet a lot of great people that are professional athletes in sports through a gamut, through the NFL, the NBA, the Olympics, just the people that you come in contact with. You meet quarterly at the White House. So it's there's like a 2,000 people waiting list. But when Bob Dole nominated me, and I'll be forever grateful to the late Senator Bob Dole and for nominating me for that position. And I went straight to the top of the list, and I passed Mary Lou Retton, and her husband got mad because she said Ronald Reagan had promised a spot to her. And I said, well, I didn't know if they knew it or not, but George Bush was president now. So I couldn't do anything about what Ron said.
Hey, before we let you go, anyone you want to thank, anything you want to say here before you leave?
Well, I'd just like to say I don't think you can achieve any great goals without the support of your family. And I'd like to recognize my wife, Dora, my son, Stephen, his wife, Robin, our grandson, Don Vaughn, and my wonderful brother, Dwayne Saunders, out there in the crowd, and my cousins, Dennis Thrash and his son, Tanner, and my friends from high school and college that always challenged me to do better, to work harder, to be the very best, and never stop fighting. And Coach Bill Snyder, who I got to be around for over 20 years, as he asked me to be on the coaching, and about detail. Trifle is no perfection, and perfection is no trifle. So I like that saying by Michelangelo.
Kevin, You're such an inspiration to so many people. Congratulations and welcome to the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
The 2024 Kansas Sports Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony on Smoky Hills PBS is made possible in part by
At NextTech, we're about connecting and providing the best solutions to help the communities that we serve thrive. Now, after more than 70 years, we continue growing to serve you. We are community, we are connectivity, we are NextTech.
Congratulations to Annette Wiles on your successful career and induction into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame from the staff and customers of the Golden Q, downtown Hayes. Golden Q, if the game's on, we're open.
Fort Hays State University Athletics, State Bank of Downs, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Will Shields, born in Fort Riley, Kansas. Kansas has been home to the Shields family since 1993. A consensus All-American at Nebraska, he was named to the college football All-Century team in '99. 1993 draft pick of the Kansas City Chiefs. Will has hit the trifecta, the College Hall of Fame, the NFL Hall of Fame, and the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. Over 14 years with the Chiefs, Will never missed a game, started a franchise record 223 games. He was first team All-Pro 3 times, second team 4 times. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Hall of Famer Will Shields.
Welcome and congratulations.
Thank you. So no Nebraska song. You couldn't do it. Couldn't give me any love.
I'm not in charge of the music,
That's okay.
so we'll
understand.
We'll throw that to
Understand.
Jeff. Maybe, as we've done for anybody else, give us an update. What you're up to right now?
Well, you know, I work for the NFL. I help guys transition out, so I'm sort of a transition coach. So I've got my guys that are from, we call them 0 to 5 years or more. Then we work with them to help work transition, get them ready for what's next, that kind of stuff. And then my older guys, I get a chance to help them with, you know, hip replacements, knee replacements, you know, all the good stuff. So it's a lot of fun.
All right. I think I saw or heard an interview with you, born in Fort Riley, and going into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame, obviously your career at the Chiefs, but being born as a Kansan made it a little bit extra special for you.
It did. You know, the simple fact is I, you know, was born right down the road. Dad was in the military, so I was born in Fort Riley, raised in, you know, in Lawton, Oklahoma, Fort Sill. So, you know, I'm here, around here is the growth of understanding of what it is to be a military kid. To understand what it's like to grow up around is really the cool part about it, and to sort of grow and understand how special it is to say that, you know, they think you're pretty cool here in Kansas.
So you grew up in Lawton, Oklahoma, and Mike Minter was a classmate of yours, I believe, and you end up at Nebraska.
Yes.
How did that happen? And maybe more importantly, what was the reaction like for all your Oklahoma friends to go to Nebraska and be a Husker?
Well, you know, I sort of had to break the mold at that point. I was the first to actually go from Oklahoma to Nebraska. There was an opportunity. I could choose to be on the offensive line or the defensive line. If I would have went to defensive line, I would have went to Arkansas. And the other part of it, they wanted me to lose 20 pounds. So for me to play offense, I could keep my weight on and be everything. I could be a very athletic offensive lineman or a very slim defensive lineman. So I chose the bigger athletic offensive lineman. Plus, it was pretty easy for me to make that transition because we sort of took Nebraska's offense, going into our junior year to state championship year. We put it in verbatim. So I sort of had my cheat code, so I already knew the offense, so all I had to worry about was classes and things of that nature, so it made for a pretty good plan.
Well, and I know this is the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. You played at Nebraska. That may be traumatizing for some, but had to be just obviously a great time to be there and a phenomenal experience.
Well, it was. What's really cool is that once you get out of Nebraska and you start moving forward and having Coach Osborne as a coach, you know, Coach Osborne and Snyder have a very tight relationship. And so you get a chance to actually get to know them both at the same time, and we get to create programs together. So we ended up having opportunity to create a teammates program, a mentoring program, And that's what's really cool to be able to say that you guys are, so we're connected all the way from beginning to end.
Third round pick by the Chiefs. Just take us through that whole process of the draft and just what it felt like to be selected to play in the National Football League.
The draft is stressful, very stressful. My wife would probably tell you better that, you're walking back and forth across the, upstairs trying to figure out, okay, when am I going to be drafted? Will I get an opportunity to play? And what's going on? And trying to figure it out. But I had a great group of agents that actually had a plan. They had thoughts. They had, hey, the Chiefs need an offensive guard. They might give you an opportunity at this point, which even worked better that he was here. He was from Kansas, so he actually sort of knew the market. And I got the opportunity to play, to get the opportunity to get drafted in the third round. And, I think it helped me as an individual grow just because I wanted to be a first-round pick just like every other kid. You want to get that opportunity to play. I want to be a first-round pick. But I think being third round helped humble me but also make me hungry. And that made a big difference, too. It made you think of the different things. Plus, in putting in the back of your mind that I had that sort of mantra that for all the teams that didn't draft me, they would pay for that. And it worked out pretty well. Worked out pretty well.
You didn't start right away. Then Dave Zott gets hurt. You move in to start, and then you started the rest of your career.
Yeah.
Just tell us about that experience. And just, offensive linemen, it's a tough business. You're rolled up on your ankles, your knees, and to stay healthy like you did and play your career like you did. Just how did you do all that, and what was the experience like when you finally became a starter in the National Football League?
Well, the thing for us is always be prepared, be ready to work, be ready, for that opportunity for that door to open. And just fortunately, and I should say unfortunately, Dave got hurt the first game, my first game as a rookie, and they moved the right guard to left and then moved me into that right guard position. And then from that point forward, it was my job to lose. And so I was one of those guys that once I got there, I wasn't giving it up. So I got an opportunity to play, and I wanted to make sure I was there every week for my guys and to be able to work with them.
College Football Hall of Fame, Pro Football Hall of Fame, as we mentioned, now the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. But what's it like, to be in those two Hall of Fames? The college football is remarkable, and then you get the pro football, had to be just incredible.
Well, it's one of those things that when you're playing the game and you're working for what you're trying to do, it was nothing in my mind. It was nothing that was planned. I'm not that guy to say, hey, I wrote a thing that I was going to be in the Hall of Fame or this, that, and the other. It was more or less playing with the people I was around, supporting them, being a part of it, the art of loving the game. I'm the guy that was addicted to the game. Every day I eat, breathe, and sleep football. When the football season came up, my sleep patterns changed to a point to where I would dream football. So that's sort of that different mantra in my mind, and that's what sort of built it out of where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. But once that happened, I didn't like other people in my position, not even in practice. So it just sort of made that feeling of when you fall in love with something and you love to do it, it's one of those things that, it's that euphoric feel. And that's what you try to build for everything you do. Once you get that euphoric feel, it's hard to turn it off.
You're the 2003 Walter Payton Man of the Year, which for the NFL is about the highest honor you can get. What did it feel like to receive that?
It's awesome to be able to say that you can stand on the stage and accept it. But it's easier when it's your team, because I call it sort of the team goal. And yeah, we put the programs together and did the work of doing the front end. But if you don't have somebody to help and support it, it makes it hard. And so to me, that's what made it even that more special, because the simple fact of it is that when we received that award, I actually got to bring teammates with me and to have them standing there because they were the ones that made it happen and made it easier so we could build that bridge.
Tell us about your Will to Succeed Foundation. What's that all about?
Well, we help those that need help. We basically build different bridges across the board. We work with about 50 different organizations. From reading all the way through to battered and abused women and children. We support a lot of different programs throughout the Kansas City metro area.
And obviously the Chiefs having a pretty good run right now. Being a Chiefs alum, that's got to be pretty cool.
They're doing okay. Yeah. It's always fun when your team is doing really well, because that's when you can actually beat your chest a little bit, like you have something to do with it. Even to the point of, hey, they're not playing well, you change rooms or change the mojo.
So you're like everybody else.
Yeah, like, hey, I'm going to have something to do with that. Yeah, okay, my wife's upstairs, I'm going to go downstairs just because it changes the mojo. But it does. It's really cool to watch those guys to do what they're doing and to do it in the fashion that they're doing it in, because each week or each month you go, that guy's hurt. Can they really do what they need to do? And they're able to put together a great game plan, which is really cool within itself to watch how that coaching staff is able to keep circumventing all the different things that go along with them.
It's been a fun ride. Hey, before we let you go, anyone you want to thank, anything you want to say to everybody tonight?
Yeah, first and foremost, I want to thank the family for coming, my wife and my son, and then our close friends for coming with me for this event. But for me, it's always about, how can you help others? How can you build? How can you grow? And I think that's what's the most unique thing about being an athlete. There's so many things you have to give up to get to where you want to go. You got to give up friendships, relationships, and all these different things to sort of push yourself to try to be the best individual you can be. And that's the hard part. And that's really that piece that all of us don't really like to talk about, but it's the part that really goes. But you also need that support. Somebody that's that rock, somebody that's going to be there for you when you do have those rough days and those tough days. And that makes a big difference, because it just as well as we fight to be up at the top, there's always somebody else behind you that helps push you forward. And then that's why you got to have that great village around you.
That's awesome. Will, we loved watching you play.
Thank you.
And welcome to the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
The 2024 Kansas Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Smoky Hills PBS is made possible in part by
At Next-Tech, we're about connecting and providing the best solutions to help the communities that we serve thrive. Now, after more than 70 years, we continue growing to serve you. We are community, we are connectivity, we are Next-Tech.
Congratulations to Annette Wiles on your successful career and induction into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame from the staff and customers of the Golden Q, downtown Hayes. Golden Q, if the game's on, we're open.
Fort Hays State University Athletics, State Bank of Downs, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Our next inductee is Sean Snyder. Sean was born in Anaheim, California, went to high school in Texas, played football at Iowa, then transferred to Kansas State to play for his father. He set a school record in punt average of 44.7 yards per punt in 1992 and was consensus first-team All-American that year. He was the newcomer of the year, defensive newcomer of the year as the punter. He went on to spend 26 years as a coach and administrator at Kansas State and was a two-time National Special Teams Coordinator of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our next Hall of Famer, Sean Snyder.
Congratulations and welcome.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, let's just start like we have everybody else. Give us an update. What you're up to now?
Right now, down at Oklahoma State, coaching special teams and doing what I enjoy doing.
A punter. I mean, when did you know you were going to be pretty good at this? And obviously, you were among the best. You're an All-American. But when did you kind of figure out that I can punt the ball pretty well?
Well, I'll go back to when I was really learning how to punt. So I started playing high school ball as a freshman, but when I would go up and see Dad at Iowa, there was a punter there by the name of Reggie Roby. Reggie was, he'd always go out and punt. I'd go out there and shag balls for him and run around. I was a little kid. And so I started kind of molding of what he did and tried to incorporate that in what I was trying to teach myself. And so you fast forward, get through high school, and looking for the opportunity. Dad was coaching up at the University of Iowa at the time, and so really wanted to get an opportunity to be around him and go play there. So I went there, redshirted my first year. Funny thing happened is he took the job at K-State, and so I stayed at Iowa. Went into the next semester, was competing at kicking and punting. Did not win the kicking job, won the punting job, and that's when I figured that's the way I'm going to go. So it kind of happened by default, but I started there at Iowa the first game, got fired, and transferred to K-State, and the rest of it's what it is.
And what was that like? Obviously, the story of what your dad did at K-State's well known by everybody, the greatest turnaround in college sports. But to be kind of there on the ground floor, the task ahead of everybody, what was that like to be a part of that group, that initial group, to try to turn it around?
Well, it was really pretty cool, and I kind of tell a story every now and then. My wife and I, we got married right out of high school, got married early. And I was at Iowa, and when we played, actually, University of Iowa played K-State, that would have been in, what year was that, 88. And then so when we were there watching the game, we left, and I looked at her, and I was like, who in the world could ever take a job here? I mean, the facilities were bad. Everything was in bad disarray. And then we turn around 5 months later, Dad calls me in and says, hey, I'm taking the head coaching job at K-State. I said, okay, well.
I guess your question was answered.
So, but being in there at the ground floor, going through it as a player, the experience and his vision in where he was going to take the program. I mean, it was, at the time I didn't understand it, obviously as a player. I just knew that all the running and the lifting and the running was a lot. And so as the players bought in more and more, you could really just see, a bond, that just created amongst all the players. And then it was a fight. Everybody had a chip on their shoulder every single game. And then as you go through the time of me working there and coaching there, that was able to carry through all the years. And it was just unbelievable, all the things that Dad had vision down the road. President Weefald there at the time was really impactful in contributing and helping and not being in the way. And it's hard when you take a program that doesn't have any money and doesn't have any history, and then trying to move that thing forward. It was. It's sad and it's true. It's the biggest turnaround in college football history.
And special teams has been a key part of that from day one, still is today. It's amazing that, and you were a part of all of that, that has been such a, you look at K-State and all the success, but you can always point to, boy, their special teams is special.
Yeah, and it was, I went on the field in 2011, but being involved with it from about 94 when I was done with trying to get in the NFL. But the thing that we've been fortunate, we've been surrounded with really good coaches, been surrounded with really good players. And when I talk about players, I'm talking about mainly kickers and punters. And those guys that came in there were easy to coach. They developed. They had great success, and it was fun to be able to do all that. And so, the team, and I believe this, any team that you go to, and now I've been to 4 in the past 5 years, but when you get into those schools and getting the players to really buy in and invest in special teams in the program, it's a big deal. And a lot of people don't really understand when I tell them that. You got to go in and you got to recruit the players to come to special teams, because I got a 10% rule. You're going to get about 10% of them that are going to pay attention and know what's going on. 90% are focused on their position and what they're trying to accomplish there. And so, you've got to get that core group of guys that are really going to invest in it, and they're your locker room guys, and they're going to really coach them up in the locker room and the other players, and that's where you get that peer coaching, and it really helps out. But it is, you can take it because it's offense that does it, defense does it, and in special teams you really got to invest in it.
You've talked a lot about your dad and obviously the job he's done. You have a obviously very unique perspective. You've played for him, you've coached for him. What was that like being his son, and he's also coach and he's coach? What was that like?
Well, I really enjoyed it. It's stressful as a player, and when I got to Kansas State, there's, as far as the group of guys that were there were other punters, other kickers, and so I was coming into a place where I felt that I had to be heads and heels better than anybody else to earn an opportunity to be on the field. Now, part of that is, the way Dad has coached and the way he's been over the years. There's a level of expectation that he has, and So I kind of grew into that, you know, and so that was for me, I always felt like I had to be as best as I could be. And so, you know, through the work and the stuff that we had there at Kansas State, it enabled me to achieve at a pretty high level. But, you know, you can't do it without the strength coaches and the trainers and everybody else that's there. And you know, you just, like with anything, you got to surround yourself with good people, and good people can help you get where you need to go.
And it's pretty cool. You're the first father-son combination to be inducted in the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. That's going to be extra special.
I thought that was really cool. Really cool.
Yes. Being a coach, and I think Kansas sometimes, it's a flyover state. People overlook the state of Kansas. Your dad obviously did a great job of recruiting the state of Kansas and turned players that maybe no one else was interested into All-Americans and NFL players. Just maybe talk about this state, because it has produced a lot of great athletes, and sometimes it's forgotten about that.
Oh, it's very true. Matter of fact, I mean, there is a lot of guys around the state of Kansas that, and the difference you get too, when you get to some of the southern states, they have spring ball, and those guys are going all the time. But a lot of the players that you find in the state of Kansas they're developing. And so when you get them into a program and they get around strength coaches, food, and all the other stuff you can provide for them, especially now, money, everything. But now, you know, those guys, they just develop, and it takes them a year or two, and then next thing you know, they're starting for you. And so, no, there's a lot of really great coaches in the state, high school coaches, and a lot of great talent in the state. And it just gets overlooked. And most of it is when you get all these spring balls around the country, and you know, when you go out recruiting, that's what you go watch. You go watch them play, and it gives them an advantage.
Before we let you go, again, anyone you want to thank and anything you want to tell everybody here tonight?
No, I do. You know, the coaching profession, as most of you know, is a pretty difficult profession, and you can't do it without the people around you and your family. And you know, I'd like to thank my wife, Wanda. I mean, she's put up with a lot. I've moved her 4 times in the past 5 years, and she's about ready to strangle me if we do it anymore. But as far as support, she's been unbelievable and phenomenal, and I can't thank her enough. And then the rest of my family, you know, my kids, my Catherine, Tate, my grandson, who's here tonight, DJ, my mom, Judy, my sister, Meredith, my stepmom, Sharon, and my brother, Ross, who's in here too, as well. So, I mean, without them, you know, nothing really matters, to be honest with you. And I got to thank my coach, Coach Bill Snyder. And so, coach and father, and yeah, it has been, they've been there through all of it, and have supported through everything. And as everybody else has said, I mean, that's family matters.
Well said, Coach. Glad you could be here with us tonight to enjoy this moment. Sean, so happy for you. Welcome to the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame.
The 2024 Kansas Sports Hall of Fame Induction Ceremony on Smoky Hills PBS is made possible in part by
At NextTech, we're about connecting and providing the best solutions to help the communities that we serve thrive. Now, after more than 70 years, we continue growing to serve you. We are community, we are connectivity, we are NextTech.
Congratulations to Annette Wiles on your successful career and induction into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame from the staff and customers of the Golden Q, downtown Hayes. Golden Q, if the game's on, we're open.
Fort Hays State University Athletics, State Bank of Downs, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Our final honoree is Mark Turgeon. Mark was born and raised in Topeka, attended Hayden High School, and played at Kansas. 2-time All-State selection at Hayden, won 2 state championships, had a 47-3 combined record at that point. At Kansas, he's the first player to compete in 4 NCAA tournaments and was selected to the All-Big 8 freshman team. He was an assistant coach for the 1988 national championship team. His coaching stops included Jacksonville State, Wichita State, Texas A&M, and Maryland. He was Conference Coach of the Year at Wichita State and Maryland. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our last and our Hall of Famer, Mark
songs. There've been a lot.
We want to get out of here at some point
Yes.
tonight.
Yeah, my family was wishing my name started with an A instead of a T.
Mark, welcome, congratulations, welcome home. We're here in Topeka. This has got to be extra special.
It is extra special. You know, my poor kids, I've been driving around town talking about all the things that happened when I was growing up. And, you know, Topeka was really good to me. It was a great place to grow up. You know, of course, my family raised me, but I had a lot of other families raise me while we were here. It was a great, close-knit community. And, you know, I think when you grow up in Kansas, you grow up humble. You grow up hardworking, and I think you grew up real. And what I mean by that, you're genuine. You're not fake. And I think that really helped me get where I am in this world because of what I was taught in this town.
Before we get into your career, and we've asked everybody maybe an update on what you're up to right now.
Well, I'm still in Maryland. We've been there 14 years. It's kind of hard to ask your family to move again when you've had 13 houses and you're married, so we didn't do that. We like it at Maryland. I've started a consulting business with working with coaches, which I absolutely love. And then I'm doing something that's a lot of fun. Our family started a nonprofit raising money for Alzheimer's. And I named it the Leo Fund after my youngest son. And we're kicking some butt. We're 2 years in. We've raised $250,000
Awesome.
for research. If anybody wants to be a part of it, Dion, I'm easy to find. And, you know, I'd love for everybody to be a part of it. 'Cause I could ask you to raise your hands in here who's been affected by Alzheimer's, and about 3 out of 4 people would have that. So if you want to be a part of the Leo Fund, I'd love to have you on board.
That's awesome. We talked about coming home. You had a great career at Hayden, great time to be at KU. You did a great job, obviously, at Wichita State, and it led you to other things. But you've had a lot of success in the state of Kansas, both as a player and as a collegiate coach.
Yeah, it's fun. And so I got my whole starting 5 here from Hayden. Stand up, guys. Give him a hand. Go, go. So, you know, we won back-to-back state championships, and we won our first state championship. We were 22-3, I believe, something like that, and that wasn't good enough for us. The next year, I carried around a basketball that said 25-0 on it. I'm not sure Coach Meskey liked that too much, but you know, winning a state championship wasn't enough. We wanted to be the first team in Topeka history to go undefeated. We took everybody's best shot that came after us coming off that state championship, but it was a lot of fun. And we did it because we loved each other and we cared about each other. And I have a lot of friends here from Hayden tonight, and we're still a really close-knit group. And Hayden was really good to me. And, you know, growing up, my dad started taking me to the games when I was really young. And all I ever wanted to do is play basketball at Hayden. It was real important to me. So it was great to play with such great teammates and great coaches, and Coach Tall and Coach Meskey, and win back-to-back state championships.
Man, it's great to have you guys all here tonight. That's cool stuff. Then you go to KU. As Jeff said, first player to go to 4 straight NCAA tournaments as a player. You were on the staff when they won the national championship in '88. Just what was that experience like with Larry Brown?
Well, it was awesome, and you know, it was a dream come true to play Kansas, obviously. And I was 5'8.5", 125 pounds when I signed at Kansas, so a lot of people didn't think I was going to make it, and it wasn't easy. I remember calling my dad the first week, and I was just getting my tail kicked, and I'm like, I shouldn't be here, Dad. I'm in way over my head. And my dad was obviously believed in me and said, you'll be fine, you'll make it. And I had great teammates at Kansas. Obviously had one of the best coaches of all time in Larry Brown, and he believed in me, and he believed in short guards, so that helped. But just to win so many games, and you know, I was a graduate. I tell everybody, we went to the Final Four in '86, but I graduated in '87. That's why we won the national championship in '88, because I wasn't there to screw it up. But just to sit on the bench with Larry Brown and just watch it, I learned a lot about being a coach and being a coach at the highest level.
Okay, I got to ask, is the story true that when Larry Brown was meeting with you, your senior year, you told him you were a better guard than anyone he had on the team?
I don't know, Coach. You were there. I was very confident. I was a very confident kid, and thank God that I was. But I did say I thought I was good enough to play at Kansas.
Okay.
Coach probably embellished it to make it look a little better, but yeah, I was very confident.
Very good. Well, it all worked out well. Let's talk about your coaching. Obviously, you're on the staff at KU, and then the Wichita State job, and just turning the Shockers around. It'd been a struggle, once proud program, and you kind of got them on that run that eventually led to a Final Four. But you were kind of the guy who got that whole thing started. The roundhouse was rocking. What was that experience like?
Yeah, it was really cool. I got 2 players here tonight, Rob Campman and Paul Miller, part of my first class.
Welcome.
Give them a hand, guys. Paul was easy a recruit. He committed, about 2 weeks before the signing date. Rob Campman, you had a week to sign players. You had till midnight the last night. I was on the phone with Rob at 11:59, and he finally committed to me and signed the papers. But he made me work. But no, the Wichita State, I loved everywhere that I coached. I was a head coach. But if I had to say where I had the most fun and I'm most proud of, it's Wichita State. We were 286 in the RPI out of 309 when I took the job. Jacksonville State was a much higher program when I came to Wichita State. 6 years later, we went to the Sweet 16. We built a new building. Charles Koch gave us a bunch of money. I had a great president in Don Beggs, a great athletic director in Jim Schaus, and we did amazing things. We went to a Sweet 16. We won the league. We did it the right way. And when I left there, we had over 1,000 families on the wait list for season tickets. So I'm really proud of what we did there, and I was really proud of what Greg did after I left. And, of course, I follow the Shockers any chance I get. But what a great opportunity at age 35 to take over a program. And just it was great for me because I had Wichita State fans. I had KU fans there. I actually became some friends with a few K-State people, believe it or not. Yeah, it was a great experience for me.
All right, before we let you go, anyone you want to thank, anything you want to say to everybody here tonight?
Yeah, it's real easy. There's a lot of people here tonight for me, and I thank you for being here. You all had a part of me being on this stage tonight, so I thank you for that. Whether you're my brother, you're my sisters, you're my teammates, you're a former player, you're my former coaches, I thank you. I wouldn't be here without you. It means a lot to me. My mom back there, wave mom. My mom's about, 5'4", 98 pounds. I get all my toughness from my mom. She's one tough lady, so thank you, Mom. And my dad's back there. Dad, wave. My dad's my hero. Love you. Real quick, because I know everybody's tired. You've been sitting here a long time. My 3 kids are here tonight. Love you guys. You make my world go every day. Love you so much. And then I've been on this incredible 31-year journey with my wife. She's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. Love you, Ann.
That's awesome. Mark, so happy for you. Congratulations. Welcome to the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
So I guess this is the official part of the evening. But anyway, to the class of 2024, to the members of the selection committee have deemed you worthy of induction into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. You now join 328 previously inducted members of this hallowed group. Through your participation in sports, you have brought pride and honor to yourself, your community, and the entire state of Kansas. You've gained the respect and admiration of Kansans, and your achievement both on and off the field of competition has helped build our state's lasting athletic heritage. To make certain the memory of your accomplishments endures as a lasting source of inspiration for future generations, the Board of Trustees and Directors now declare you're officially inducted into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
The 2024 Kansas Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Smoky Hills PBS is made possible in part by...
At Next-Tech, we're about connecting and providing the best solutions to help the communities that we serve thrive. Now, after more than 70 years, we continue growing to serve you. We are community, we are connectivity, we are Next-Tech.
Congratulations to Annette Wiles on your successful career and induction into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame from the staff and customers of the Golden Q, downtown Hayes. Golden Q, if the game's on, we're open.
Fort Hays State University Athletics, State Bank of Downs, and viewers like you. Thank you